So we started the stream a little live. Started streaming a little bit early tonight. Just we're still waiting for people to come, just to make sure everything's up and running. Um, so yeah, so we'll get started at 7 o'clock. But in the meantime, let's wait for people to come. Also, apologies if in the background you see people walking around. We had a back to school night tonight, so in the Parish Center, so that should be wrapping up here pretty soon. So you might see people filtering out as we begin our session. Actually, Marty, hello.
What are you doing?
Waiting for you guys to get here.
Relaxing, having a breather.
I do have the stream going right now because I was just making sure it was up and running. So just watch what you say.
Oh, I was going to talk that down.
You know who?
Oh,
Oh, you know what? Now that I have this, I'm looking over in this area, and there's a door going that way and a door going that way, and the only reason I can think of is because maybe that's like a small closet, or
think
that
it-
goes downstairs. Or
no,
upstairs.
yeah, I think it used to be, but all that's in there right now is the air conditioning, like the ducting and
So
stuff.
both of those doors
The
lead
same
to
place,
the same
yeah.
place.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
I guarantee
wish I
you,
would have asked.
they had to cut a hole
Probably.
and get something. They're
Yeah.
like, let's just fill a hole in the door because it's a whole lot easier than putting the tape in it.
Yeah, I mean, we can get in there easier. I mean, I think that's probably part of it. I think one of these actually, I don't even know if I have the key for. I have the key for one of the doors. The other, I don't know what the key is for. So yeah, I don't know if it's been that way since the very beginning. I don't know.
Are you done with the book group that you had
Mm-hmm.
on Wednesdays?
We actually, I think 2 weeks ago was our last meeting.
Oh, nice.
So we ended before. Was it 2 weeks ago? When was last week? The 5th. Yeah. So it was before. We ended before August.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we're talking about maybe doing something else, maybe some other time. I don't know. With school start and everything, we just had our second back to school night tonight. So
I went last night.
cool. Yeah, that was a bigger group. There was a smaller group in there.
Yeah.
Tonight, but it was
Right
so-
now, there's a smaller group.
So yeah, with that getting started, I think my time is going to be a little more. Hey, Jack.
Me and Moore are doing a little pilgrimage this weekend.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna go out to the dome that I was talking about.
Oh
in,
yeah.
In St. Ferdinand.
Sure. Yeah.
But then we're also gonna go to.
Yeah. The Vesper. Right. Yeah.
I know everything. Like I read, it was like, oh, make sure you stay with Benedictine monks. Like,
Mhm.
make sure you stay. See them prayer. And
Yeah.
listen
I'm sure they're
to
going to
it.
chant it and everything. It's going to be great. Yeah. I don't know if the sisters are better or the monks. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, we're gonna do both. 'Cause
Okay.
I think we're gonna do like the evening vespers.
Vespers.
for the
Yeah.
sisters, and then the next day we're gonna go to the Argentine.
Cool. Good. Well, that'd be good. We'll save travels.
You want to get?
We'll be.
I don't know what it is.
He is he was a Franciscan priest that was interred in Auschwitz,
Oh.
and he gave there was someone that escaped, and so the way they did it was they would pick 10 people at random and just kill them.
Yeah.
And one of the persons picked was a father of like 10, and so he stepped up to take his place.
Gotcha.
And actually, he lived was the last one that died. They actually had to give him poison to kill him.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah.
it's a interesting martyrdom. He was canonized by JP too. When I first moved back to St. Louis after being away, I lived in what they called the Colby House. Hey guys, that was a discernment house for guys who are older and trying to determine what they're going to do. So,
Have I met you? I'm Ashley.
Are we Jack close
Jack?
today?
well, you guys can sit wherever you want. It's fine. I mean, if you don't,
Down, I was like, I didn't know
if you don't
how-
like me, you sit over there. It's fine. That's fine. I'll take it.
We'll do a close one the next.
Jack.
Oh, we will?
We'll all be up close.
Oh.
Oh boy.
Nice to meet
Father Mark does not
Put the
want this
pressure on.
happening.
you.
Not like close.
It's all
I had to
good.
stop giving
We saw
hugs.
Julio running on the way.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. And we actually were creeping up behind him. I didn't see that it was Julio. And I said, I'm going to roll this window down and tell him I'm single.
Oh,
And we saw that it was Julio.
I did ask him if he was coming tonight, but he said no. So we'll see. I don't know. He's got a job and stuff for him. Well, good. Well, it is after 7, so we'll go ahead and begin. So tonight's Lexio comes from Matthew chapter 5, verse 27 to 32. So it's kind of a continuation of the Lexio we had last week. So Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. You have heard that it was said, you shall not commit adultery. But I say to you, whoever who looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye cause you to sin, tear it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one of your members than to have your whole body thrown into Gehenna. And if your right hand cause you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one of your members than to have your whole body go into Gehenna. It was also said, whoever divorces his wife and gives her a bill of divorce. But I say to you, whoever divorces his wife, unless the marriage is unlawful, cause her to commit adultery. And whoever marries a divorced woman commits adultery. You have heard that it was said, you shall not commit adultery. But I say to you, everyone who looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye cause you to sin, tear it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one of your members than to have your whole body thrown into Gehenna. Go into Gehenna. But I say to you, whoever divorces his wife, unless the marriage is unlawful, causes her to commit adultery. And whoever marries a divorced woman commits adultery. You shall not commit adultery. But I say to you, everyone who looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye cause you to sin, tear it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one of your members than to have your whole body thrown into Gehenna. And if your right hand cause you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one of your members than to have your whole body go into Gehenna. It was also said, whoever divorces his wife must give her a bill of divorce. But I say to you, whoever divorces his wife, unless the marriage is unlawful, causes her to commit adultery. And whoever marries a divorced woman commits adultery. Bless you. I mean, that's fine. That's sufficient time, I suppose. What was your question?
Oh, sorry.
That's fine. Very good. There's no wrong way to pray.
Okay.
Well, it says, but I say to you, whoever divorces his wife, unless the marriage is unlawful, causes her to commit adultery.
Mhm.
Well, if he is gonna divorce his wife, hadn't she already committed some kind of?
Not necessarily. So, in the context here, in the law of Moses, a man could divorce his wife for whatever reason whatsoever. That could be adultery. So that's more than just divorce. That's like, hey, you've actually committed a grave sin and you deserve death. But the law of Moses actually allowed, and even women to do this too, to divorce their husbands for a particular reason. So there wasn't necessarily have to be like, hey, you committed adultery, or you committed theft, or you blasphemed God. It could be, I just don't like you very much, right? Or you're not really cooking too well. I think we need to do something different. What they would do is they would go to the priests and the rabbis, and they would write out a bill of divorce, and they would have it certified by the rabbi, and then that would be it. So what Jesus is doing something very, very countercultural here. He's like, no, that's not intended by God. Moses allowed this out of the hardness of, and another scripture, he says, it allowed for the hardness of your hearts. So in other words, Moses knew that this was going to be a problem for the people of Israel at the time. So he allowed it because they were going to do it anyway. What Jesus is saying is, no, marriage is a sacred act. It's a covenantal act. It's a sacred bond. So there isn't really any reason why you should actually divorce your wife. Now, there puts a caveat in the Gospel of Matthew about unlawful. Well, what does that mean? Well, let's say maybe you're closely related. For instance, we have this in the second letter of the Corinthians, from Paul to the Corinthians. He's addressing the community because there was an aspect of incest going on. It wasn't like a blood relation, but there was even like a mother-in-law or a father-in-law. That was considered forbidden because the law didn't make distinction between blood relative and legal relative. So if you married your mother-in-law, it's like marrying your mom. Which is wrong. Yeah.
Is unlawful also under the category of, it's like when you did divorce, but it's like not annulment?
Okay, annulment is different, right? So what annulment is saying is that there's never been a bond there to begin with.
It's so crazy.
Yeah. So that's not saying, so like the law would even say like your marriage will not dissolve just because of it's something like infidelity, right? So if I were married to somebody and they committed adultery, what the church says, like, well, even that, the bond of marriage can overcome even that for you, right? Now, there are certain things like, okay, well, he had an addiction that I didn't know about before we got married. And that has manifested itself now into our marriage. That was keeping him from saying yes freely, right?
Yeah.
That's different than, hey, we're related to each other.
So does that fall under the category of unless the marriage is unlawful?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. So in other words, the understanding of marriage is a free gift of the self and with full knowledge of it, right? So if let's say I was a priest and I met someone very wonderful and kind, I want to marry that person, there should be no inhibition from doing that for me. It has to be free. So there's other things like that, like let's say we both kind of, got together before we actually had the ceremony, and now she's pregnant. Well, that could be a hindrance because are you marrying this person because I love this person with the before, or am I marrying this person because now we have kids?
Yeah.
That could be considered inhibition, right? Or a blockage from the actual free will. Yes. Right. And even someone who's actually like preparing couples for marriage, if that is the case, that needs to be addressed and actually understood.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, good. Yeah. I was going to address that anyway, but you jumped the gun thing.
Ashley, sorry about that, right?
Yes.
Your hair looks really good.
Thanks, I straightened it.
It looks really good.
Wow. Thank you for noticing. It's like the first time I've ever straightened it in like probably a year.
Yeah, it's like,
Adolescence is down.
Now let's look at this aspect. I don't know if anyone reflect on this too, but these aspect of like this kind of hyperbole that Jesus uses about tearing out your eyes and cutting off your hands.
yeah.
Now, what we're even talking about here, not just even like, we're not even talking about things like the actual act of committing a sexual act with somebody. We're even talking about like, if I have lust, right?
Okay.
And this is where Jesus kind of elevates this, right? So before this, we're more external. Like, look, the action itself is what's important for the law. What Jesus is saying is, no, that comes from your interior,
It's the thought.
right? So, in other words, if I look at a woman with a unchaste eye, it's better for me to pluck out my eye than actually lead me into sin.
Are you talking about like looking at a woman sexually?
That's what he's talking
Because
about.
You can appreciate beauty.
Well, that's
but
what
there's
lust.
also-
Well, good. And we're
Okay.
going to talk about that. Yeah. So, is there a difference between lusting after somebody and beholding the beauty of somebody? I think so.
So,
One maintains the dignity of the person. The other one is reducing the person to
Yeah,
something,
for
right?
Yeah.
So, now where's that line? That's sometimes hard, right?
I think he's saying like, if you have temptation, find other ways to not be around that
Okay.
temptation. But I am curious to know if, because I know it's different for each denomination, do Catholics read the Bible and take it as metaphors?
Yeah, so we do. So there's when we talk about biblical interpretation, we talk about the literal words, what they mean, and then we also talk about the spiritual aspect, right? So here I think you would say like, yeah, is Jesus talking about literally tearing out your eye and cutting off your hand? I don't think so. I think he's making a allegory, an ethical allegory to it's better for you to do that than to fall into sin, right?
Yeah.
Which is how we would interpret that. I think most reasonable people would. I mean, some might say, yeah, I'm going to cut off my hand. Well, wait a minute. Isn't that a violation of the fifth commandment? Self-mutilation. So the commandments cannot contradict themselves, right? So I think what Jesus is saying here is, yeah, it's this aspect of, you use a very good distinction, temptation rather than sin. There's a difference. Temptation leads me into sin, and I should do everything to avoid that temptation. But I can even fall into the sin of lust through the temptation, even though I maybe didn't actually do a bodily action. Right, Tom?
There's even the temptation to keep thinking about the temptation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like, that is,
Dwelling on it.
yeah, because you might not be able to help the temptation
Mhm.
actually coming.
Right.
The, like, not immediately putting it out of your mind, the considering.
Right.
Reacting to
Right.
it, yeah.
Yeah, the one of it, the action on it, yes.
Is just the matter of like the tearing out the eye or cutting off the hand, is it more so just to kind of push the severity of it? Like,
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
Jesus is making a point here. It's like, look, this is also a serious sin.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, right? This is another thing that's kind of controversial, because the law of Moses wouldn't say that, right? Because the law of Moses doesn't necessarily say look at interior action; it's only at externals, right? So if you're looking at from law of Moses, the act of adultery, that means I'm having a sexual act with someone who's not my wife or spouse. That's much different than what Jesus is saying. He's saying, no, that starts from the heart. If you let those things creep into your heart, as a matter of fact, C.S. Lewis has a great line about lust when he talks about you kind of create a harem for yourself in your own mind. And that's, even though you're not actually maybe doing an action, there's still a fantasy aspect of that that's not in accord with reality and not in accord with the dignity of the person.
I think a good example of the like pluck out your right eye if it's causing you to sin is, I mean, social media is a very
Mhm.
easy place to like find things that you shouldn't be looking at.
Yeah.
And the idea of lust. And so even something like deleting the social media app
Right.
is in a sense plucking out your eye.
Yeah. I mean,
It's sacrificing something in
Right.
order to remove the
Right.
deprecation.
and I think what it really goes down to is, when we talk about lust, that's usually associated with the virtue of modesty, right? And so the thing about it is, like, of course, at the time of Jesus, no one had social media, but like, maybe if a young man is hanging out by the well and a young woman sends to show maybe a little of her ankle, I mean, again, that's right, exactly, right. So there's an aspect of here that kind of changes with culture, with time, that we have to be cognizant of. So yeah, but yes, yeah, very much so. Your thoughts, comments, concerns, heresies.
So what is the context of this? Why is he saying this?
Yeah, so this is part of this, again, the Sermon on the Mount. So Jesus is giving us a long sermon over like 2 or 3 chapters in the Gospel of Matthew about the moral. And like, because last week we talked about anger for your brother, right, associated with murder. Again, that was a change from what the law of Moses would say, right? Because in many ways you can't really control your emotion. What Jesus is saying, yeah, you can.
I think a lot of the time too, things is like this had came out with a lot of these things at his time. Moses might not have been around very long.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you're talking about a development of the people as time went on. That you're talking about a people that just came out of slavery. Wait a minute, we've been in chain for 400 years. Why I can't feel angry about that?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense, Moses. What are you doing? Right? Yeah.
Well, today, Tom and I were reading something in the
The Baltimore Catechism.
Oh,
thank
wow,
you,
yeah,
by the
great.
way. Thank you. And it said something like, you can choose every emotion you have. So that kind of reminds me of that.
Yeah, I mean, and so what
It was talking
really?
about how in the fall
Yeah,
we initially had the grace to not have to
choose that.
control
Right,
our emotions.
right. Because they're all in line with our intellect.
Yes.
And our intellect is used to govern our emotion and to decipher the proper action in emotion, right? So, in other words, to be angry is not necessarily sinful, like we talked about last week. It's, okay, what is the purpose of your anger? Is the anger there to enact vengeance against somebody? Or is the purpose actually call out a wrong that's been done, right? Our intellect should be able to distinguish the difference. And we should follow then our intellect based on that, right? So same thing with lust. Am I beholding the beauty of somebody, or am I just like maybe noticing a particular part of that person that reduces them just to that part?
I'm not a lesbian, but I can look at a lady and see her
Yeah.
beauty, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And,
Sure.
you know, I'm not, that's not.
Thanks for that distinction. Appreciate that. That's a good to actually point out. I mean, but yeah, okay, all right, yeah, sure, yeah,
Good to
right.
know, I
Right. But no, but you're right. Actually, I mean, I think that's the thing is like, we can behold whatever sex we are, even if it's like a man, a woman, a man, or a man, a woman. I can look at a beautiful woman and say she's beautiful, and I can even like thank God for the gift of her,
Yeah.
right, and recognize the source of that beauty. But if I start reducing her just to her attributes, that might be a problem. Right?
Now, would it be a little creepy if you walked up to somebody and said, "Thank God for somebody as beautiful as you"?
For me, probably. For others, I don't know.
I
I
feel
mean,
like coming from you would be the least creepy, actually.
I think it might be a matter of opinion.
I guess so.
Based on the history of the church, I don't know. Talking about the upcoming school year with the teachers, and one of the things that was brought up about like camera and phone use, especially by the teachers, and Mr. F was like, "Well, I guess you can take pictures of me." Like, I'm not taking a picture of anybody. That's not going to happen. So yeah.
Because you like your job.
Well, I mean, it's just more. I love my priesthood,
Yeah.
or I love the priest of Jesus Christ. Put it
Not
that way.
meaningful.
Oh, good. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. We're going to jump into the 6th and the 9th commandment because those things do go. The topic is Catholic sexual ethics. Good. Well, it's probably good to talk about what is the purpose of the Catholic sexual ethics. So it's interesting that, in our day and age, people tend to focus more on these teachings than probably any other teaching of the church. I don't know. That's because maybe our society is hypersexualized. That could be a possibility. Maybe also because of the great debates that have happened over the last century or so about this topic. But the purpose is to actually understand that sex actually is a good. Sex is a good thing, but it's also a dignified thing, and it's also a gift, right? So we're given the gift of sexuality to be used for a proper end. So what are those ends?
To reproduce.
Procreation, sure. Is that the only end, though?
Well, to
consummate
partner,
marriage.
close.
Okay, that is an action of consummation. I'm sorry, what did you say, Ashley?
Well, when you and your partner, it's another form of.
It's a unifying action, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So in other words, I unify with somebody in that action, and I love that person so much, I want to create more of them, right? And that's what this action does. Now, we want to be clear that the action itself is pleasurable, but that is not the main goal and end.
That's just
There-
a plus.
It's a means. The reason it's pleasurable because if it weren't, nobody would do it. But it's still a gift, right? It's still an action meant for the other, right? So we want to be that very clear, because if we lose sight of that, we also lose sight of what what Jesus wants us to do in these regards, right? So this kind of goes back to this understanding of original solitude. We talked about this with the Genesis story, right? That Adam, when he was alone, he didn't really realize he was alone. God caused him to understand he was alone by naming all the animals. And through that understanding, there was an understanding of the sexuality, but also this gift of the other, right? So really it's an aspect of the first commandment, that the first commandment given by God was not, you should love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul. What was the first commandment given by God? From Genesis. Be fruitful and multiply. Right? It was like, hey, you guys, you've now given this gift of sexuality of to the other, make more of yourselves. Right?
It's so crazy how we can do that.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
Well, but also that's an act of creation with God.
Yeah.
And that's what the purpose of that's an aspect of this, that when we procreate, we are harnessing in a way the creative power of God.
It's a way that we're in his image. And
Yeah.
likeness.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing, right? So the other thing that applies to this too is the golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Now, here's the thing about that though, is that assumes an understanding of self-love and self-dignity, right? That I would maybe want somebody to engage with me in that action, but I want to do that in the proper way. One that's not self-centered, one that's not also painful, one that's not actually directed towards just an act of lust, right? So we have to understand there's a difference kind of between intimacy, chastity, and celibacy. Okay, so again, what's the goal? What's the difference? Everybody is called to chastity. Now, that chastity takes different forms in the lifestyle that you live. We also are called to intimacy. Now, intimacy for, let's say, Grace and for Ashley is much different than maybe intimacy for Father Madden. At least it should be, right? As well as chastity for both Ashley and Grace and Father Madden, right? Chastity really is about self-mastery. It's I have control of my desires, my appetites in a way that's directed towards reason and the good of the other. Intimacy sometimes is used interchangeably with the sexual act. Intimacy is a sexual act is a form of intimacy, but all intimacy is really a human connection.
Like
And
a hug.
like a hug, we all need human touch. I need human touch too.
You don't
3-second hugs. It's 3-second hugs. As long as they're 3 seconds, they're fine.
Aw.
But intimacy is something we all need. We all need that human touch and human connection. But again, that takes different forms in the way of life we call ourselves. Celibacy is a particular calling for people, though. So, for instance, it's very confirmed, have been called to celibacy. Celibacy just means I'm not married to somebody else, right?
Which in turn means that you don't
Or
have
taking
the
it
sexual
to
act
Correct.
because you're not married.
Correct, right? And my chastity and celibacy connect with each other in that way, that I am called to maintain my chastity and self-mastery in that state of life.
So celibacy doesn't technically have any association with sexuality besides the fact that it is a call to not marry.
Okay, good. Okay, let's talk about that. So can someone be celibate and continent or incontinent?
Meaning not married.
No. So celibacy, can I be married to somebody and never engage in the sexual act?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, when
Yeah.
you're mad at them.
What? I mean, ever. Right? So there's things like, for instance, Joseph and the Blessed Virgin, right? They were married. They were not celibate, but they were continent, meaning they never engaged in the sexual act.
What do you mean by that? They were not celibate, but they were.
No, they were celibate. They were not celibate, meaning they were married, right?
Oh,
Okay, so celibacy just means I'm married to somebody,
oh,
right? Incontinence means am I actually engaging in the sexual act, whether with someone in the marriage or not in the marriage, right? So incontinence has to do something with like whether it be adultery. Well, it is adultery. If it's outside the bond of marriage and within the bond of marriage, I can still engage freely, but it would be wrong for me to be continent, right? In that regard, if we're called to procreation. So, in other words, the goal of these things is always to maintain chastity, but that chastity is always directed towards the state of life we're living in, right?
Control of it.
Yeah, still self-mastery. So that raises an interesting question. Can someone actually commit adultery within the bond of marriage? Yeah.
like if they have sex with someone else?
Oh, sure. Is that the only way?
Well,
There's an emotional
true.
way that you
That's true.
Sure. Maybe I'm engaged in a sexual act with my spouse, so I'm thinking of somebody else.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, well, it's not even looking at somebody sexually.
I mean, lust itself would kind of fall into that, but also, can I look on my spouse without lust? I mean, I think it's possible.
Yeah.
But if I do look at my spouse with lust, am I committing a sin?
Are you? I don't think so.
Well,
I don't think
am I
so.
reducing someone's dignity in that regard, right?
Are you reducing them to something less than
Something less than
themselves?
who they are.
Yeah, because they're specifically supposed to be your equal
Yeah.
as your spouse.
Right.
Well, what if I think I'm great looking too?
Well, that's not the end, right? Yeah.
Are they thinking you are less than them in some
Right.
way?
Right.
Bisexual.
Or
by
in other words,
over-sexualizing?
I'm using you in this
Yeah, or that
moment.
thing of this is your purpose.
Right,
kind of
exactly
thing.
right.
Yeah.
Right. So the aspect there is of it being used. The other aspect too would be an act of that's not unifying nor procreative. So in other words, can I engage with my spouse, even though we're married, in a way that does not leave for the possibility that unity and the procreation? Yeah. There are certain sexual acts that can be performed that don't end with that possibility. And in that regard, that would be something like contraception, not that free gift of the self, and hence an act of lust.
Okay, this is going to go wild now.
Great.
I have a question.
Can't wait.
Okay, so in the wild, I saw this documentary. The male birds in the forest will pick
Sure.
up their feathers and try to attract the females,
Sure.
with their dance and stuff
Right.
like that. And then the female is supposed to go lusting after the male to
Okay.
reproduce.
Sure.
And that's how that happens in the forest.
Uh-huh.
But so how is if a woman to her husband is, putting her feathers up, and
Sure.
trying to look lustfully and beautiful
Uh-huh.
to attract her mate, then how is that a sin?
Free will.
Are we birds?
No.
Yeah, right, exactly. So instinctually, sure, birds do that from their instinct, not from their intellect.
Okay.
We do have an intellect to actually make those decisions and choices. And it's not to say I can't look attractive or look appealing. That's not what we're saying here. That's different than lust, right?
Yeah.
Even things like you could say like, okay, there's a difference kind of between vanity and presenting myself in a way that's dignified and good. So even that respect, if I'm more doing it for myself than maybe for the other person. So if I came in here today, I didn't shave, I didn't take a shower, I would have my collar off, I was hanging out here, whatever. Okay, that would be very disrespectful to all of you. And so I should actually do this not because, hey, look how good I look in a collar. It's I want to present myself respectfully to the people around me. So that's also going to be the same aspect. Like I can look appealing and attractive, but also I'm dedicated to this other person. That's for their good, not for mine.
And I think also, is my goal to tempt them,
Mhm.
or is my goal to look attractive.
Mhm.
I think that's part of it.
Yeah.
I think so. So what's rather interesting about this whole discussion is that, for the most part, the entire Christian world was on the same page with all of this until about 1930.
Oh wow, that's recent.
It is recently. So, in other words, things like contraception, things like premarital sex, things like all these things were kind of all held together. Like, yeah, this is something that should be avoided. It's a violation of the Sixth Commandment. We should look at these things. 1930. Does anyone know what happened? A significant event happened in 1930 that kind of caused this break. What's that? No. Well, no. Even though that happened about the year before, that's true. This was the time of the Depression, yes. But there was an event that was happening. Maybe I'll give you a better hint. It was happening with a particular denomination in the Christian faith.
Was it? Oh, it's a schism.
Oh, we have many answers. What?
Was that when they separated the Orthodox and?
Oh no, that happened in, that in
yeah,
1054.
yeah, it's
That
like
was way, yeah.
Sorry,
Mormons?
No, that's good. Yeah, that was more the 19th century.
Wasn't the pre-sexual abuse?
Nope, that didn't really come
That
to light
was
until
like
the
the
2000s, early.
Oof.
Yeah.
Way too recent.
As usually, the Anglicans had a council called the Lambeth Council, where their group of bishops got together, and during this time there was a great change in the scientific realm, especially when it came to things like biology, with the coming of the pill. Right. So, with this kind of development of these other forms of contraception, the Anglican Church got together and started looking at this question to see, well, okay, what can we say about use of these methods, these pills, these other things when it comes to sexual moral ethics? Is it licit for someone to use these products in good faith and in light of the gospel truth? Part of this also was this understanding of, we as human beings, do we have control over these things in our intellect that let us govern these things properly, right? What the Anglicans determined was, you know what, we would say that for a couple that have already shown they're open to life, meaning they already maybe have kids, maybe they're in a state where they don't necessarily want to have more kids, but they have shown they are, use of these methods seems like it'd be licit. And so from the Anglican Church, they started making these proclamations that, yeah, use of the pill is fine as long as you're married, as long as you already have kids, it should be no problem. Use of a condom, sure, as long as you're now married and you have kids, not a problem. Flash forward to a war later, actually 2 wars later, this question was actually asked of the Catholic Church. And at the time, John the 23rd, who was the Pope, put a council together of doctors and gynecologists and bishops and other people to look at this question that came from the Anglican Church and ask for the Catholic Church whether this can be applied. So this council met for 10 years. This started like 1958. They went all the way through the Second Vatican Council. After Pope John the 23rd died, Paul VI took over, and he was given the results of this council in 1967. The results were, yeah, we agree with the Anglican Church that Catholics who have shown that they're open to life, have shown that they are in a committed relationship and marriage, should be allowed to use contraception. So Paul VI took this information and he put it all together and did his only all his research, and he determined, well, I don't know about this. So he started looking at the actual science behind the pill. Does anyone know how the pill actually works?
The morning after pill?
No, this is talking about the birth control pill.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Morning after pill didn't come to like the 90s, 2000s.
Does it basically flush out the uterus?
Okay, so it actually works in kind of 3 separate ways. It destroys the sperm. It keeps the sperm from actually connecting with the egg, right? And the other thing it does, it allows that it allows that the uterine wall does not attach to the ovum when fertilization happens. Now, two of those things we could say, okay, that's not necessarily bad, right? Okay, your conception never happens. So, all right, maybe. But the third way, what do we call that?
Abortion.
An abortion. So in other words, fertilization has occurred, and that new person has no way of actually developing because it can't attach to the uterine wall. And that itself would say that would be illicit right off the bat.
But it's still not attaching though. So that means there was no conception.
No. This is after fertilization.
After the
Oh,
sperm.
okay.
Yeah. So in two ways, it keeps fertilization from happening. And you can say, oh, okay, maybe that's okay. But the third way would be like, the problem is, do you know how that works for you? No. So there's a level of ambiguity there. Like, well, if you don't know exactly how this works for you, then you could be having an abortion, which seems wrong. That's been wrong since the church has been founded. But also these other forms, like even like a condom. Well, if marriage is directed towards this self-gift of these unifying act and these procreative acts, to willfully do that seems like a problem too. Now, what he started looking at and getting more doctors and people involved is there a way, though, that maybe a couple can engage with each other? Because the sexual act is still good, even if it doesn't lead to a baby. Married couples should still be free to do that. Is there a way that can happen? And what was developed around this time after this document came out, which is called Humanae Vitae, that's the document Pope St. Paul VI promulgated, was what they called natural family planning. So in other words, what he was looking at was there's a rhythm to a woman's cycle that allows her to not be fertile, but also can still engage with this marital act with her husband. And instead of one person taking a pill or the other person putting on a condom, this is actually an action for both people to actually engage with each other in a wonderful, beautiful way of yet unitive and procreative act.
And so that's because even though the other two options aren't
Necessarily
causing
illicit,
abortion,
right? Exactly.
they should be avoided because it's not.
It's still
fully
keeping that
giving-
happening,
it's not
right.
fully giving
Right.
yourself to God.
Exactly.
is what-
Exactly. It's still keeping that actually from happening. That procreative or unitive act to happen. So, so what happened when Paul VI actually promulgated this? It was panned by a lot of people, even bishops of the church, even priests. They said, "Oh, you don't have to. That's not. Don't worry, that's not doctrinal." Well, if you actually read Humanae Vitae, he gets pretty close to saying it's actually dogma of the church. He said this has always been the teaching. I, as a pope, am promulgating this. This is an aspect of faith and morals. Well, remember we talked about Vatican I, that the pope can make dogma, right, with those three aspects. Ooh, well, it seems like he's saying that here. Now, he also was understood, like, yeah, couples should be able to engage each other in circumstances, let's say financial problems, illness, stuff like that. Okay, but using these other methods doesn't seem proper. The NFP seems like a good way. Now, to be fair, when natural family planning came out, there was only one method called the Billings method. And the Billings method was also called the rhythm method. And the problem with it is it was only about 80% effective in not achieving pregnancy. And the reason was not as effective is because what it failed to take into account that women, each individual woman had maybe a particular cycle. So the Billings method was like one size fits all. Well, as anyone will tell you, that's not how women's cycles work.
Unless they're all hanging out.
Right, yeah.
And then
Right. Now, over time, though, these the new methods, the Marquette, the Creighton method, which are more particular for the women. And lo and behold, what they found was actually it's more effective than a condom or the pill itself. If it's even used, not even like, diligently, which is rather fascinating. That we have a built-in mechanism within ourselves that we can actually engage with that relegates this. Again, it's use of the intellect. It's engagement with both people, not just one or the other. It's actually an act of unity and procreative because what it is always open to life. Is it possible that God can create a miracle in this regard, even though a woman is not fertile? Sure, it is very true. That's an openness to God's will, right? But the science would say, yeah, you can not achieve or achieve pregnancy in a better way using these methods.
And there's less side effects.
There's definitely a side effect,
Oh yeah.
right? So for those who are preparing for marriage, Marty, Moira, we ask them to go to an NFP class. And we prefer they go to the Creighton or the Marquette model because those are the most current and the most effective. And also, it's probably why NFP got a bad rap because, yeah, the first method wasn't as effective. It's true.
Who teaches these classes?
They're usually taught by either nurse practitioners or doctors
Oh.
that actually are trained in NFP.
Cool.
Yeah. Usually it's always medical personnel. Yeah. All right. So that's kind of the brief history of how this all came about. What's interesting, though, is that lust, according to Thomas Aquinas, is actually the lesser of the sins. And I think that's rather interesting because maybe it's because that when you experience things like lust or even things like gluttony, there's usually a bodily effect to that, where things like pride or envy, maybe not so much bodily, right? So he makes that argument. Again, we talked about the lustful versus beholding the beauty. This actually is a control the base desires. We have to understand that our sexuality is ordained to the good, right? It's always ordained to the good, meaning the good of the other and the good of the children, right, that are engaged with it. One of the reasons why I like things like premarital sex or like having children outside of wedlock is not so much because it's not good. It's just that the child that comes from that bond also has a right too. They have a right to be born into a committed, loving relationship, right, with a mother and a father. Which also means that other actions that are not in line with that unity and procreative aspect would be considered illicit. And what's controversial today with a lot of people is when we talk about things like people experience same-sex attraction, right? People that experience same-sex attraction are still called to that chastity. That chastity may happen in a different way. It's not the fact that they may experience this that makes them that's wrong or sinful. It's not. It's actually engaging with those actions that would be something sinful because they're not in line with that good and that end.
Because they can't make other people with that.
Basically. Or one would even argue, and can't even really unify with somebody in that way. I mean, there's again, a design to our biology that's meant not only for that procreative, but also that unit of action.
So what if 2 men or 2 women got married, but they decided not to have sex within their marriage?
Yeah, okay, so do we talk about this? We talked about marriage? We didn't talk about this. We talked about marriage. So, no, it's a good question. So is it possible for 2 men, 2 women to live together in a fraternal or a sororital bond, let's say, that's actually good for the other? I actually love this person. I want the best for this person. I want this person to be able to visit me in the hospital when I'm sick,
Right.
or to share benefits like when I'm working, that kind of thing. Is that illicit? Well, no, it isn't. Now but we would also say that's also not marriage, because marriage is directed towards the ends of marriage, which are fidelity, faithfulness to God, unity, and procreation. And if one of those are not there, and not even procreation like a natural procreation, even a spiritual way, in the spiritual motherhood, fatherhood, there's not a marriage there.
Wait, so how would they not meet those 3 categories though?
Well, if we're talking about fidelity to God, letting God lead you, right? Maybe that could be there. We are living with each other in a way that's good for each other. We're not engaging in that action. Okay, fine, good. But if you're not engaged in that action too, there's no unity. And even if I try to, there's still not a unity there. We're still doing this more in maybe a lustful, and what's not directed to its proper end, which is procreation.
Yeah.
Right.
How does that compare to something like a Josephite marriage where
Yeah.
you also can't?
Well, it's not that you can't in a Josephite marriage. There's a choice involved with that, but the potential for it is still there. And so when we talk about actuality or potentiality, right? Even let's say if I'm in a couple that's infertile, there's still potential that if I engage in the action with my spouse, that a child can still come about, right? The potential is always there. That can never happen with 2 men and 2 women, ever. So, when we talk about what the marriage is, that's what defines the marriage. Is not only the consent, but also the right to the body that leads to those proper ends.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, of course. And the other thing I think to recognize in our society is that oftentimes we look at this action and we don't recognize that unit of procreative. Usually what happens a lot of times in our society is we try to separate those things, meaning I want to have this unit of bond with my spouse avoiding the procreation, or I just want the procreation and not necessarily the unitive aspect. And both are wrong, right? Because they have to be together, which is why things like IVF is a problem, right? In vitro fertilization. You ever heard of that?
Oh, it's like where you take your eggs and like
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, freezer. Yeah, so you apply the semen and whatever. In vitro just means in glass. It happens in a test tube, right? So test tube babies, you've heard that, whatever. Because one would argue, well, IVF seems like a good because hey, people that are infertile are having children. That's what we want, right? Sure, okay. But the problem there is there's actually aspects in the procedure that are abortifacient, meaning embryos are created and they are discarded, right? That's a wrong. Now you could say, well, what if we get it down to just one embryo that we can implant? The church would just say you're still not recognizing the unitive aspect of that, right? The action itself is not leading to that creation; it's separate actions, and so it's not the fact that it's even artificial. There are actually artificial means that can actually be illicit. Like for instance, let's say I wanted to check sperm count I'm a husband. I want to check my sperm count to make sure it's okay. The church would say it's okay to use a perforated condom in that regard, right? So I can collect it and have it measured and still engage with my spouse in a unitive procreative way. Or even have procedures done that can allow for that better. So it's not the artificial aspect, it's the fact that you're separating those actions from the unitive procreative. It also makes a child not a gift, but also a commodity, right? So talk about reduction of the dignity of a person. If I turn a child not into a gift, but of something that I deserve, or a right, or even just like kind of a handbag, that's also reducing that person's dignity too. And it's not aligned with what God wants for us. Now we also want to say too, anyone's been created that way. They're still human. We still have a soul. They're still here and we love them and they're made in the image and likeness of God, right? We would never say that anyone that's created outside of the natural act would be evil or wrong or shouldn't be here.
Or lesser than.
Or lesser than.
Yeah, of course.
Obviously not, right? So we want to kind of maintain that. So we talked about humanity already. Another thing to look at what comes to modern understanding is theology of the body. So St. John Paul II, from 1979 until 1984, the popes always do this. They have what they call general audience, and that happens on Wednesday afternoons, usually in the Vatican. The Pope comes out on the balcony and gives sort of like a catechesis, a teaching of some aspect of Catholic, teachings. For 5 years, John Paul II taught about what we call theology of the body, using Genesis as well as the teachings of St. Paul VI, other popes and other teachings to kind of understand the dignity of the sexual act and the dignity of man and woman. So I would encourage anyone, Humanae Vitae is a much easier read, it's shorter. Theology of the body will take some time. And with John Paul II especially, he uses a lot of philosophical language. So it's a little bit harder to decipher. Other aspects of the sexual act we want to be aware of, pornography, obviously. John Paul and Pope Paul VI talk about how pornography is a scourge on society, that it leads to other things like when you see increase of those things, you see also increase of things like abortion, infidelity, prostitution, masturbation. These are all aspects that don't lead to those two ends of unity and procreation. And so in that regard, they would be considered illicit, right? Which also was rather prophetic because we've seen that happen in our society. I think Gen Z is trying to work the other way around, so good job. Keep it up.
Yeah, I heard Gen Z has the most converts so far.
Yeah,
That's true.
I think that's true. There are a lot of people that Gen Z converted, especially this last spring and hopefully beyond. But also, I think the way Gen Z handles like the sexual moral ethics seems like it's more in line.
I hope so.
Well, I mean, compare like so. For instance, I remember a time when the government would say that masturbation is a good thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, early '90s. It was like, hey, that's a natural act. You should do it.
Like explore your body.
Well, it's not like that, but also like they were saying it's actually an aspect of health. Yeah.
Something like it's
Yeah.
like good for your health or something.
Yeah.
There
Yeah,
was
well,
also
we had that in middle school. I mean, that was taught in middle school.
Right.
You know,
there
like,
was also
hey, all the boys going to the gym here, all the girls go here. We're going to talk about all this stuff.
Yeah.
And
Now,
you
of
got
course,
your gym coach that should never be teaching.
Right. Yeah,
anything.
yeah. Now, to be fair, of course, in Catholic school, that was not taught.
Oh.
No, but the government. I mean, you had government officials. That, yeah,
Public school system, yeah, absolutely.
it's all good.
I mean, not that the public school system is bad. They did a great job.
All right. Thank
it's
you.
interesting because the more that I am on the internet now, like every other ad is you can stop pornography now,
Yeah.
like download this app or
Right.
something like that, and this will help
Right.
you get off it. And I was like, that's kind of interesting. It's more and more.
Yeah, I mean,
kind of
I think finally society has kind of seen how bad this is for people's psyches, people's health,
depression,
right, and relationships. I mean,
isolation.
and when I was growing up, there wasn't really a lot talked about that.
Yeah.
So kudos Gen Z, way to go! You guys keep it up.
Let's go.
All right. Any questions about the 6th of the 9th commandment?
Wait, so what, I mean, I don't know what they are.
Oh, thou shalt not commit adultery is the 6th commandment.
Oh.
The 9th commandment is thou shalt not covet your neighbor's wife.
Oh my gosh. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's a great.
So this aspect again of lust and this physical aspect. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for coming in and bringing this in. That's very good.
No, I
Um,
mean, like that was probably one of the things I heard otherwise, like
Yeah, well, you went to public school. That makes sense.
Well, no. Like,
Anyway,
well, no, like you hear the like, oh, that's the 1v1 situation. Instead
Okay.
Of, the 1v.
Any serious questions about the 6th or the 9th commandment, or any other thoughts? All right. To the 7th and the 10th commandment. So, the 7th commandment is "Thou shalt not steal," and the 10th commandment is "Thou shalt not covet your neighbor's goods." Right. So, his house, his car, or hers, for that matter, too. I mean, this is not just for men; it's for everybody. So
Jealousy.
Oh, sorry. When we asked about movies, what movies?
Oh, like sex in movies, maybe.
Oh, yeah. Like, okay, so watching movies, is that okay? So part of this also is like based on your particular temperament or what you actually are kind of able to
When it comes
avoid.
to temptation.
Yeah, I mean, so in other words, like maybe I shouldn't say this, but one show, and this was when I was in seminary, I liked to watch was Game of Thrones.
I was just going to say that.
Now, Game of Thrones, the sad thing about it was a great plot. It was a wonderful plot. It was a really great. The acting was amazing. But for some reason, and this is what actually caused me to pity the writers of the show, was they thought they had to throw in all this nudity.
They're always in a brothel.
And they didn't have to. It was never like actually in line with the plot. It didn't really do anything as
It
far as
wasn't like one of those
driving
things that was
along.
like the plot down.
it wasn't. Yeah. And so it's like, why are you doing that?
I couldn't even watch it with my dad.
Right.
It's because of the times. And
Yeah.
That's the other thing too. Is
Yeah.
like, here's these things of here's this epic show that literally someone sits down and watch. Takes weeks of time
Right.
to watch.
Right.
Oh, well, you can't watch it with your family now.
Right.
You
I
can't
mean,
do these things.
So when it comes to things like media, whether it be like movies, books, even songs,
I think a lot
or
of
like,
it is
social
that separation
media.
of the families.
Yeah.
The target of it.
I think that's a big part of it. I think it's important to understand, like, okay, what can I control? What can't I? So can I appreciate the artistic aspect of this without maybe necessarily appreciating the stuff that's not good?
Yeah.
That may be more that would be a moral choice. Yeah, Tom.
My dad, I've talked to my dad about this because he loved Game of Thrones
Mhm.
and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he said there was a certain age that he got to where it just didn't bother him anymore.
Yeah.
Like there was no longer that temptation.
Yeah.
There was no longer
I think that's probably
any
true.
sort of
Yeah.
tendency. And so he just watched it because
Yeah.
it doesn't bother him anymore.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that might be different than like a teenager.
Yeah.
And so again, yeah, I would not advise anyone under the age of 18 to watch Game of Thrones, maybe even 21. I mean, either way. But yeah, we have to be discerning in these regards. And a lot of that goes back to what we talk about with modesty. So modesty, again, is towards the other. When I talk about modesty, I mean, yeah, I want to be presentable, but also I want to do it in a way that's not leading someone into sin, not leading someone into scandal, but also have the wherewithal that if someone is maybe dressed in a way that I may not appreciate, also respect them and not turn away, do other things I can do to actually not notice maybe, right? So maybe there's a difference kind of between I'm driving down the street, maybe there's a billboard with a woman in a bikini. All right, well, maybe tomorrow I won't drive down that street again. I didn't know that was there, but that may cause me to feel a certain way. I'm not going to go drive down that street tomorrow. I'll try to take a different route, right? And so in the same way we talk about things like media, there's other ways, modesty. What can I do to control it? And how much do I know? Right, yeah. How much do I know it's coming, right? If I know, for instance, there's going to be a nude scene coming up in a movie, maybe I should avert my eyes. Maybe I should.
She's done with that street, she's on to the next one that you're taking the next day, you never know.
You're talking about there's another billboard?
No, I'm talking about,
It was a
yeah,
billboard.
yeah,
It was,
oh,
yeah, exactly, it was a billboard.
It wasn't just a lady.
But what I
I
was,
was just like, girl washing her car, standing out, just so-
Fair. Yeah, that's a good point. Oh, yeah. But yeah, the question is, what can we control? What can't we control? Right. And so we should do everything we do to control what we're doing. Right. Good. All right. Good. I hope that answers the question. So, here we go. I was talking about events in the 1930s with the proliferation of sexuality. Oh, gotcha. All right. Yeah. Yeah. I think there was a lot of that going on. I don't know if it was really hitting the time around 1930, although I think by 1930 there were actually worse standards in movies that were kind of maintaining that modesty.
You did have a lot of things too at the time too of socialism and communism.
Yeah.
Which kind of push,
Yeah.
Freedom of
it pushes promiscuity and is trying to break apart
fight against
the
Family.
atomic
Yep.
family
Mhm.
and so forth.
Yep.
I mean, you see it today.
Yep.
It's the same thing of family's bad.
Yeah. All right, so thou shalt not steal. This seems kind of relatively simple to comprehend. Like, hey, I don't want someone to take stuff from me. I shouldn't do that to somebody else. What's that? Okay, great. The church believes there is a right to private property if it's acquired in a just manner, right? So if let's say, I don't know, a money bag falls off the back of a money truck, one of those Brinks armored trucks, do I have the right to that money?
Yes.
You made him speechless.
Not necessarily.
No, hold on. Let's say you had no idea it fell out of the truck. Like, there's no way.
All right, let's take that then. I come across a bag of money, not marked. It's just sitting there in the middle of the street. Do I have a right to that bag of money?
Yes.
Not necessarily, right? Because I have to do everything to find out. Like, well, this isn't mine. I know this isn't mine. Maybe somebody else's.
Find out who's
Yeah, like
Whose is it?
the building next to you.
Right.
Do you have cameras?
Right. In other words, I should do everything I possibly can to ensure that it gets back to the rightful owner.
But don't touch it.
Maybe not, right? Maybe I call the police. Maybe I do whatever. It's best just to leave it there, unless there's some issue with it being destroyed or something else. Fine, whatever. But in other words, I don't necessarily just have a right to anything that I necessarily find. We are not owners of anything, is what the church kind of understands. We are stewards, though. We are given particular gifts to be used for their proper end. And that end is not just directed toward ourselves, it's directed towards others. So, okay, yeah, if I find a bag of money in the middle of the street, I don't know where it came from, I pick it up, I bring it to the sidewalk, I start looking around saying, hey, does anyone know where this money came from, whatever? I may call the police, I make some phone calls. Let's say do everything I possibly can, and nobody's claimed the money. Do I still have a right to that money? Again, not necessarily. Maybe, because is the money going to go to waste? What's going to happen to the money if no one claims it?
Yeah,
Maybe I can, right? So in other words, are there good things I can do with that money that's not directed towards myself? Yeah, but I still have the obligation morally to find out who that money belongs to. I should do everything in my power to ensure that happens within reason. If I own the money for 3 years, after 3 years, no one's claimed this. Maybe I should probably not 3 years. Yeah, okay, fine, right? I'm just using this as an example. It could be a few months. One of the jobs I had in college was I was a housekeeper at the Drury Inn. Worst job I ever had in my life. It was the people I worked with are great, but the job itself was horrible. But one of the policies they had was if someone leaves something behind, we have to contact them. We have to let them know because we have their information. When they check in, provided it's actual their information. Within 30 days, if it's not claimed, though, they give it to you as the housekeeper if you found it. Hey, we did everything we could. They didn't claim it. Apparently, they didn't want it. It's yours now. So again, we have to do everything we
So
can.
that's good, right?
Yeah.
Because-
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Because it was the
Because
hotel
there was due
policy.
diligence of actually doing that process, right? It wasn't like, okay, just leave it out there for 30 days. We won't tell anybody about it.
If they don't come back.
Right.
Well, here's
Now,
what-
part of the problem is like as someone that was a housekeeper, I had to actually, bring it to the management and say, I found this in this room. Is it possible that people didn't do that? Yeah,
Probably.
Yeah.
but that would also be a problem, right? According to the seventh commandment. Okay.
So like, I have actually,
Sorry, go.
I don't know, you probably have a more important question.
Well, I was just gonna say, I don't have a question, but at Gilroy's, the bar that Artie owns, people leave their sunglasses.
Yep.
Coats and everything, and we have a lost and found.
Sure.
And we stick the glasses on the back of the bar, and then after a month or
Yeah.
so, we've
Yeah.
got, we could run a store
Yeah.
full of sunglasses and.
I mean, because in that regard, you don't know
So
who
it's
it.
like, we gotta get rid of
Right.
them.
You don't know who left them there. I mean, right.
Right.
Exactly. Sure.
So,
Right.
in order to keep the space clean and everything, we take them home. So,
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you guys noticed, but back at the church there, we have a table,
Mhm.
and there's tons of stuff on it. That's people left in the church,
Yeah.
and we just keep it there for a amount of time. Like about once a month, we'll go there. Okay, let's donate this, or we'll do whatever. Yeah, right. So,
Yeah.
you do the best you can. The church believes that in the production of goods, we have the responsibility to protect others with fair wages, consumption in moderation, using benefits for those who need help. Right. So, in other words, a worker deserves their wage. Right. There should be just wages to actually provide for themselves and their families. Right. Does that mean though that we can't, let's say, put money away for ourselves and for our families in the future?
That's totally okay.
That's totally okay. Is it okay for me to put like millions of dollars away for my family in the future and myself?
If you have it.
Sure. Right. I mean, again, so the question there would be like, okay, well, when is enough enough?
Yeah. I think
Right.
that's a big thing that people don't ever.
That's a big question, right? I mean, because it's not this fact that you actually have like wealth. The question is, what are you doing with that wealth?
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
Am I using that wealth again for myself or for the people that I have responsibility for, which is everybody, right?
So this kind of talks about production of goods,
Mhm.
working, and stuff like that. Is there any church advice on things like pricing of goods, like no gouging?
Yeah, I mean, the best you would probably get out of that would be a document that was written by Leo the 13th in 1893, Rerum Novarum, right? So Rerum Novarum was at a time where there was the Industrial Revolution. There was a lot of discussion about like socialism and communism. And so Leo the 13th kind of did a deep dive on these things and said, okay, look at the different forms of like, economics of government. And he would look at the bad things about it and the good things. What he concluded in Rerum Novarum
What
was
is it
that
called?
Rerum Novarum,
Rerum.
right?
Can you
A
spell
new
that?
thing, yeah. RERUM NOVARIUM. It just means a new thing.
Okay, so that's a documentary?
No, it's a document. It's a papal document from Leo the 13th, right?
Okay, a documentary.
Yeah. It's on the Vatican webpage.
Much less interesting.
Yeah.
Also probably not very
I mean,
interesting.
there may be some documentaries made about it. I don't know, but still, yeah. Sorry, I don't know. But when we talk about these papal encyclicals, these like documents, it's always the first two words or your first like phrase of the document. So like Rerum Novarum means this new thing. So it's just that's the English translation, but it's always in Latin. So
Okay.
yeah. He looked at these different forms of government, and he was kind of concluding that, like, okay, there's things like about socialism. Hey, it's not necessarily wrong to actually want to share wealth with people, but the problem with socialism is that it's forced, right? It's not a free will action. Democracy and when we talk about the open market, there's a good in that, and that you actually allows for personal property, which can be given and used to the proper end. Now he would even guard those, but the problem sometimes with this form of government, this form of economics, is that it can also breed greed, right? And so we want to be on guard against that. But what he would still say is, based on what we have, probably that's the best form that we have, because it allows for that free will, but we also need to guard against greed, right? So that's probably the closest you'll get. A lot of this comes down to practicality. So the market can drive, okay, well, hey, if someone over here is willing to pay $5 for an apple, and I sell them for $3 an apple, okay, well, I can maybe affect that. Now, also, I want to be able to provide my family and myself.
Yeah.
So, okay, where is the limit there? Well, we leave it up to human reason and prudence to dictate that,
Or
right?
like, if it costs me 50 cents to make something and then I
Right.
sell it for
$500, yeah, right.
then it'll be
That would not be very
That's the other
just,
thing
right?
today,
Yeah,
which is wild with people. It's then before it was a thing of if something was just too expensive, people would stop buying it.
well,
But today people are more so on a thing of I gotta have this
right.
powder I put in my
Yeah,
drink.
yeah,
even though
yeah,
it's 4
yeah,
times more
yeah.
what it was.
Right,
I
yeah.
gotta have it.
Well, that's what Leo XIII was talking about, and actually John Paul II talks about is consumerism, right?
Yeah.
So consumerism is something to be avoided as well. That I need this. Well, no, you don't need it. Obviously, you can still survive without it. But even that, when it comes to the prices, that's what Leo XIII was kind of talking about at the time, was that because of industrialization, now you're, instead of going farm to table, let's say, I'm going through this particular person that packages it, and then the drivers that drive it, and that also drives up costs to the point where, okay, again, what is now just now? Because now you have more people touching that product that are doing something with the product that also owe or owed some kind of due, right? And who's going to pay that difference, right? So prudence usually dictates that, and I think it's what Leo XIII would say, right? So yeah, but no, there's not a definitive teaching Apple should be $6 total. That's it.
You should have a 75%.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah, no, that's it. Yeah. There. Yeah.
So would it be innately immoral for somebody to just have $10 billion?
Not necessarily. The question is, what? Well, a lot of times too, when we talk about wealth, the question is actually liquid wealth. I actually have $10 billion in the bank,
Yeah.
or is that something I'm using now to go back into my company to pay for salaries for people and other things?
How is it applied?
How's it
What do
applied?
you-
Right. Exactly. So the purpose of it, what am I doing with it? Am I just storing it for myself, or am I using it for other good?
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you trying to tell us something, Jack?
Maybe us can all have $1 billion.
Thanks. Thanks, Jack.
Glad
So-
I came to this OCIA.
So again, when we talk about theft, the meaning of that actually is usurping of others' property, which is a grave sin, right? That's a grave matter. That when I take something that doesn't belong to me without permission, that's really what we're talking about. We're talking about theft, right? And that can include actually even more things, just like taking something. For instance, maybe I don't do my work well, or in the best capability I actually can. Excessive expenses, oh man, I'm on Amazon every day. I'm just getting stuff. Damaging property. Even if it's accidental, that's still usurping somebody from that. Even things let's say, okay, let's look at some scenarios here to kind of drive this point home. I'm going through the supermarket, and there's, the grapes are sitting out there, and I just go by and I pick a grape, pop it in my mouth.
Unless you're gonna buy the bag of grapes or steal it.
Is that grave matter?
Yes.
Depends on, well,
It's
I would-
intention. It's the intention.
yeah, it depends on the intention to some degree.
Okay.
If you're a kid that goes up.
I'm
and
not
does
saying
that
grave
kind of-
sin. I'm saying grave matter, meaning is
Yeah,
it
it is not
morally
your-
wrong?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'd
Right.
recommend grave sin.
So, because sometimes people say, well, this is a grape. Okay, let's say it's a watermelon,
Right.
right? Where's the line there?
It's one piece of fruit. regardless.
Right, exactly.
Than the other.
So yeah, I mean, so you can say, well, you know what? Okay, I am going to pay for it. I'm eating a grape, so maybe it's my cart. I'm going to pay for it later.
30 people take a grape if the bushel's gone.
Now, here's the problem with that, though, too. How do they actually determine what you pay for that grape? If I'm eating it in my cart,
Oh, the weighing, the pound. Yeah.
Never thought about that.
I never even
Honestly,
thought-
great advice, Father. Okay.
right? Now, maybe I can keep track and see when I get to the, I had about 5 medium-sized grapes.
Here's 7 cents.
Yeah, right.
The weight
So-
of the sin is the weight of the product.
Well, so that's the thing. I think we have to look at these as like different ways of looking at this, right? Because, okay, yeah, maybe I'm not necessarily intending to like usurp or take property, but my action, even though maybe I'm not actually cognizant of it, could still affect that. Let's take like maybe even a classic moral scenario. I have a wife and 3 kids. I lost my job. I've been applying everywhere, can't get a job anywhere. I've been in several interviews, nothing's come from it. We've exhausted our savings. I've gone to every social outreach that's there, Vincent de Paul and Urban League and all these other places. I've exhausted those to the point where I can't get any more from them. I have an interview at a grocery store. I go in, I interview, I walk out, the store closes, and lo and behold, I see a loaf of bread fall off the bread truck as it drives away. My children are getting to the point where they're starting to starve.
That's a blessing from God right there. That's
Okay,
God is
okay.
giving me food for my family.
okay, all right,
That's what I would think.
okay.
I kind of agree with
I
that.
So you're saying it would be morally acceptable in that circumstance for me
Yeah.
to take that bread?
I think so.
I think you could run after the truck with your bread in hand and
And if
try
they
to
see
do
you
whatever
shaking
you
it,
can do to give it back to them. And then God would grace you. He'd be like, take it. And then you'd be like, okay.
I mean, there's also the thing too of you could go to the grocery store and say, hey, this fell off this truck, and
Well, it's closed.
Yeah.
They closed already.
Oh,
Yeah, closed for the
right.
night. Right. I mean, but could I go the next day and say, hey, by the way,
But it's not gonna last that long.
the next
Loaf of
day?
bread with starving
A
children
loaf of-
around you?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's like, no. What I'm saying
Oh,
is, you can bring it home, they eat it, and then the next day I go back and I say, hey, this bread fell off the truck, and I picked it up because it was going to go to waste anyway, right? But I still have to like kind of be honest about that, don't I? I think so. I mean, so again, it comes down to what do we do in this scenario? What's the best thing to do?
Maybe that bread loaf is a ticket to give him that job if he takes it back the next day.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, there's also a benefit there to say like, okay, well, hey, I told you about this. I'm honest, right? And I can even be honest with them and say, I'm at the point where my kids are starving. That probably actually would get you the job, I would imagine, right? So, especially if the person has a heart and actually, you're capable of doing the job. So, again, yeah, sometimes doing the right thing actually is beneficial even in the long run for you. Actually, all the time it's going to be beneficial in the long run for you. So, that's just important to keep that in mind too, right? This, I think, goes more with the 8th commandment. It's talking about not keeping your word or promises, or especially when it talks about like not adhering to like signed contracts. That's right. So if I've signed a contract with somebody that they're going to do a particular amount of work, I give them a particular amount of money, it'd be wrong for me to say, well, you didn't really do the work the way I really thought you should, so I'm going to withhold.
Or if they didn't do the
Or if they
proper
didn't do the
work.
proper work, right, to get the money. So there's an aspect of that to be understood. Let's take one more scenario. Let's say I'm working at Dairy Queen, and I just had a long night the night before, and it's the middle of the morning. There's not really too much traffic going on. Not many people coming to the restaurant. I decide I'm going to go into the walk-in cooler and maybe just take a quick nap.
What?
Take a nap on your shift? That's
Well-
In the freezer?
All right, is that wrong?
yeah, I've had to fire people for that before. So at the university. Like,
Yeah.
I've done that in high school before.
Yeah.
When you're only stealing your own
I-
time.
Are you stealing your
also-
teacher's time?
Were you
I
paid
also-
for the time that you took to take that nap?
You were
I
stealing your
was,
parents'
I
time.
Yeah.
was working a sweet
Yeah.
game.
Right. Right.
But even if you're a student, you're stealing your parents' time because they
Yeah,
pay
I
the
mean,
money for you to go to
time
school.
is one of those aspects that like we actually owe, right? We're called to use our
It
time.
has a number attached. to it.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And then even like if I waste time, let's say at home, right? Am I not using my time to its fullest potential or fullest, what it's supposed to be used for? Not to say I can't have leisure. We should. Leisure is good. But if I'm like, let's say doom scrolling, is that a really good use of my time
No.
that I could be doing other things that are more productive, more beneficial to people around me? Fortunately, I don't have that problem. But
for you.
I know,
I think I'm
right?
gonna go back to that.
I can still
Telling
do
you.
scroll on
I've been-
that.
There's a
I've been
benefit.
saying like whenever we do end up moving and I don't have the same job that I have now, I'm gonna go find myself one of those cricket phones.
Yeah.
I can't wait for it.
Apparently, there's a way now. Some of the seminarians are doing this, where it's like a smartphone type, but there's like no. It just has like GPS texting
No
and phone.
data.
That's it. Yeah,
That's good.
I know.
You said no GPS?
It has
No,
GPS,
Oh, good.
GPS
Yeah,
text and, like,
but texting and like calls, and that's it.
Probably
Yeah.
like GPS and maybe some music and
Maybe that. Yeah, but like, apparently it's like no,
It's-
data. Or
I
whatever,
think it's called
so.
like a dumb phone. Or
Yeah, that's what they
something
say.
like
Yeah. So I don't know.
just a smartphone.
Right.
The smartest phone.
This also goes in line with human enslavement, right? So we take someone else's freedom, that would be not what's due to the other person. It's actually interesting. St. Paul actually made the case against enslavement. Not necessarily the institution of it, but there's this book in Scripture called Philemon. Does anyone know what Philemon is about?
It's a book in the Bible.
Correct. New Testament. It's a letter from Paul to Philemon. So in the book, there's a escaped slave. His name is, I think, Sosthenes. He escapes from his Christian master, Philemon. Sosthenes is also a Christian, right? And Sosthenes goes to Paul, and Paul writes a letter to Philemon adjuring him to treat Sosthenes as if a brother in Christ. That even though he is a slave by the eyes of the law, in the eyes of God, he's your brother, right? And even though he may serve you in some ways, you need to treat him as you would a son or a brother, right? So in other words, it's not necessarily a condemnation of the institution, but it's understanding that as Christians, whether a Christian or not, we treat everyone with dignity, right? And so even though maybe the law would look at someone as a slave, because slavery goes on still today, unfortunately, right? We tend to think like, oh, that was 100, 200 years ago.
Yep.
Nope,
Now,
it happens. But regardless, slavery would be wrong in that regard, especially when it's being treated as less than human. So it's important to keep that in mind too.
I just wanted to say you got to laugh out of me for the church's work against slavery long before it was cool.
Yeah, that wasn't me that wrote that. That was someone else. Yeah. No, I mean, that's the thing, right? I mean, the church has really always been against this aspect of like this diminishment of the person, right? So it's important to keep that. Okay, we talked about maybe the aspect of the state and businesses when it comes to things like bribes. Yeah, that's another aspect that we want to kind of be cognizant of.
What if it's like you're at a garage sale? And
Okay.
it's like, this is $5, I'll pay you $3.
Haggling.
Yeah.
Okay, that's more of a negotiation. There's still like a level of agreement, right?
Okay.
So in other words, okay, well, now maybe let's put it this way, maybe I have a special knowledge
That it's worth.
that's worth like thousands of dollars, right? I'll give you $4 for it.
Yeah.
Mm,
Because that's not honest.
exactly.
or haggling and like belittling someone on the price. You know?
Yeah.
Oh, this is stupid. You know
Yeah.
what I'm talking about.
right.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
there's, you know, there's
I'm
always-
respectful when I have.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's actually it's funny. I went to the Holy Land, and that happens all the time. You know, especially in Jerusalem, it's like it's actually an insult if you don't.
If you don't haggle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like if you go to some of these shops and stuff, it's like, oh, this is 20. I give that. It's like you don't want to. Like they
You're
give
not gonna
themselves
try
like
my
you're not gonna.
haggling?
You don't think it's worth. You think it's worth what? I mean, it's kind of funny because it's like, okay, well, I'll give you 15 for it. Well, no, I mean it's a good product. It's like,
Okay.
Okay, fine.
all right. No, sorry. So it's
So
it's kind of funny.
Lower their prices?
No. Yeah. Well, I mean, so because ultimately they're probably worth much less than what they're asking for.
Yeah.
Because the assumption is you're going to haggle it.
Yes.
You're going to negotiate it down.
A
Right,
lot of
it's
people
cultural.
sold for
So
it.
It's
they're,
cultural.
they're having a heart and they're saying, hey, it's not worth it. Do you want to go down? Like,
I mean,
Right,
it,
are
no,
you-
the,
are
no,
you
the thing is,
sure you
no,
want
no,
to
the thing is
go
they become insulted by it if you
wow.
don't, right?
Because maybe like you're not appreciating.
You're not,
their-
yeah, you're not appreciating what, yeah, right,
their
exactly,
business
right, yeah,
mentality
yeah,
and
yeah,
their
yeah, yeah,
haggling
yeah, yeah,
ability.
yeah. It's more about the negotiation tactics.
That's over my head.
It's
That
very
would-
interesting. Yeah,
So-
I remember I
I
was buying incense in Jerusalem, and
But it's also, one thing, sorry.
yeah, go ahead. No, yeah.
One thing is like, it's a culture that's
Yes.
been doing this.
Yeah.
For thousands
Oh,
of
yeah, yeah.
years.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
People have been going there,
right,
you know,
right.
on pilgrimages for.
Yeah,
a
we
long
I mean
time,
we
you
were
know.
we were told specifically to haggle.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, it's a great insult.
And also, it's,
Right,
it's probably, it's just part of the culture.
It
You know,
is.
I think
And
like,
but also too, it's like it's only
he's
it's
got
only
it
an
for
issue.
$5.
Yeah, it's only an issue if like
Yeah.
if like if I do it purposefully to diminish or like give it less value than it actually is worth. Because ultimately the price you pay is probably exactly what it's worth.
Yeah.
But it's also like, okay, well, if I have like, but if I have special knowledge about like, well, actually this is probably worth $50, but I'll give you 20. Well, that's not being honest with what you know. Because you can also insist like, no, I know what this is worth, and here's what it's worth. I should give you that. Right?
You know the show Pawn Stars?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
love
always
that show.
appreciate when they bring in the experts and the
Yeah.
experts are like, this is what it's worth. And
Yeah.
It might be like thousands of
Right.
dollars more,
Mhm.
and then they'll still buy it for thousands of dollars
Right.
more.
Right.
I
Yeah.
always appreciate that.
Yeah. Sometimes it doesn't work that way though, but yeah, right. Yeah. Okay, sharing our goods with the poor. If someone doesn't have something that they need, we have an obligation as brothers and sisters to provide those things. So maybe a good example of that would be that we see often is the people at the ends of the on ramps and off ramps, right? Now, the question is, what can we give or what should we give?
Yeah.
Now, one thing I started to do, that's not the right one. I carry around sometimes gift cards. And these gift cards actually are particular. A shout out to Chick-fil-A. So when you use their catering services, they give you these cards that can actually go to Chick-fil-A and get only specifically what's on there, right? So in other words, to trade this in, sometimes what happens is people trade cards in for cash or do something like that. Well, all right, but Chick-fil-A doesn't do that, A. And B, you're providing for their actual need. You're hungry. Oh, here, get a chicken sandwich.
They can't get a soda.
They can't get soda. They can get food. And there's other, some have like ice cream. You can do whatever.
with their lunch.
Right. So that's not to say we shouldn't give money. If we're so called to do so, we should. But there is a level of prudence maybe involved with this because I don't know this person. Maybe they'll use that money for something wrong.
Yeah.
Not necessarily best for them. Now, one could say, well, who am I to judge? I can just maybe pray for that person, say, I hope you go and use this for what it's intended, and let them have the dignity to do that. You can. I think regardless, though, we can definitely pray for those people.
Yeah.
And one thing I do as a priest, and anyone can really do this too, is give them a blessing. Right? Ask God's blessing upon them. Because obviously they need it. Right? So this is an interesting point that it's asked about here, right? So in Acts of the Apostles, so the book of Acts, we're told that all the disciples lived in community. They shared everything in community. So if the early church lives this way, as one would maybe say a socialist or a communist, why does the Catechism of the Church uphold private property?
Because not everybody's part of the church.
Okay,
Part of it.
Tom.
Because part of property has to do with government law, and it's not necessarily an issue of faith and morals.
So in other words, if let's say we choose to live in a community where we share everything together, but it's a free choice. It's not something that is forced. It's something that's freely given. We should have the right to do that, right? And we actually have those today in the church. They're called religious orders. Anyone joins a religious order, they give a vow of poverty, which means any property they have becomes part of the order to be used in common. I can't be given as in an order a gift just for my personal use. I have to declare it to the proper authority, and that determination will use what it should be used for.
Do you have to do that?
I never took a vow of poverty. I'm not a religious order. I'm an ordained
So
priest.
you have the
Yeah.
$10 billion.
Right, exactly. Yeah, right. It's often said that religious orders take the vow, but archdiocese and priests live it. There's some truth to that. But yeah, Grace.
I have a cousin who's a Franciscan sister there.
Yeah.
She's my cousin.
Yeah.
So I give her a birthday gift.
Okay. Yeah.
She's my cousin.
Sure. What's your question?
So, is it wrong?
No. So here's the thing: it's not wrong to give it, but a religious sister who's taken the vow of poverty, by their own law, should give that to their superior to determine what to do with it. Right? So they're taking that vow. That's a vow to God. Right? So probably what your cousin is doing, depending on what it is. I mean, sometimes it'd be like, hey, these are socks that are actually fitted for your feet. Well, how can we use that, right? Either way, she'll need to take it to my superior and say, hey, I was given this. It's just fits my feet. Is it okay? Yeah, fine, whatever,
Can I
right?
so-
Right.
Like, I'm sure that's more like how
Right, yeah, right, or shoes, like that kind of thing,
I
right?
gave my
So,
cousin $30,000.
yeah, I mean, so
If you
there,
give them Air Jordans, maybe
there-
they can't have the Air Jordans.
there may be a limitation on that in that regard, right? But if your cousin's made a vow of poverty, they should follow that vow, right? As a matter of fact, yesterday we celebrated St. Clare of Assisi. St. Clare started the Poor Clares with St. Francis of Assisi. And she always looked at, like, she would always like tell her sisters, like, your habit is a gift to be given, not a gift for you. So if somebody needs your veil, you give them the veil, right? That's an extreme form of poverty, but that's also a vow they took. So similarly, right? Like, for instance, that also goes with like obedience. So a lot of orders, what they do is instead of like having individual cars, they'll have like a fleet of cars or maybe 2 cars. And the brothers will ask the superior to actually take the car out like they were, asking a parent. That's what poverty means, and obedience.
Well, sadly, she had a stroke earlier this summer.
Mhm.
So I visited her.
Yeah, great.
But it'll bring her.
Okay.
I mean, that she needs.
Look, Grace, I don't know. I'm not. I can't tell you exactly what she does. Maybe there's also dispensation. I don't know. But someone who makes those vows, they owe that. Now, there's also aspects of like faculties. Like, are they aware of what's going on? Do they know what's happening? All that needs to be taken into account.
She likes sweets.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know.
I think on your part, there is nothing wrong with.
There's nothing wrong with you giving a gift at all.
But I don't want her.
Well, that's very good for you to think about, but that wouldn't be on you.
She's my cousin.
I mean, here's the thing: if you really are concerned, you could ask her.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sometimes ignorance is bliss too. I don't know. I mean, like I say, I wouldn't say don't give gifts. Give gifts, right, to your religious sister. It's up to them to determine how that works.
She needs your help, so
Yeah, good.
help
Good. Don't stop doing that.
losing the right side of the body.
Sure. Yeah. And in that regard, maybe she has been dispensed in certain ways for these reasons. I don't know. It's not necessarily a cut and dry everywhere. But in general, when someone makes that vow, that's what they are saying yes to, which is why I'm not a Franciscan or a Jesuit or whatever else, right? I like freedom. Some of the aspects of this, did I take or keep stolen things given to me by others? Ooh, that's interesting, right? Or did I know where it came from? Did I not ask the questions? Did I hurt or spoil another's property? Did I keep valuable things when found? Again, going back to like the money thing, right? Okay. Similarly, when we talk about lusting after a neighbor's good, so this coveting aspect, right? Again, it's lust of the eyes. There's an aspect of envy. So let's talk about that. There's a difference in kind between envy and jealousy. Does anyone know what the difference is?
Jealousy and envy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like, at least the way I think of it, jealousy is like you see somebody and you want something that they have, as
Okay.
to where envy would be more like you're like seething at them a little bit, I guess.
Yeah,
You're a
good.
little bit upset about
That's good, Jack. Yeah. So yeah, you're
They
absolutely
don't
right.
deserve it.
Yes. So with jealousy, it'd be like, okay, example that would be, let's say my neighbor gets a brand new Lamborghini. Man, I kind of wish I had a Lamborghini. That's jealousy, right? Man, I mean, it's great he got it, but man, I kind of wish I had one. Now, do I need a Lamborghini? No. But maybe I have a disordered desire for the Lamborghini. Maybe I also get to the point where it drives me to the point that I do everything I can to obtain a Lamborghini for myself. Oof. Is that a good way to live? A good place to be? Not necessarily. Envy is, just like you said, Jack, okay, my neighbor got a new Lamborghini. He doesn't deserve that Lamborghini. I deserve that Lamborghini. He doesn't work. What does he got? Where does he get a Lamborghini?
So it's
Right?
like a belittling.
It is. It's an
Well, yeah,
diminishment,
you're-
right?
you're kind of two things at
Yeah,
once,
and
so-
envy, there's also an aspect of like pride involved, right? That I'm better than this guy, I deserve it, that guy doesn't. Both are wrong, right? Because they're not appreciating the gifts that God has given you. Because God gives us all unique gifts that are there for us, that we give us things we need. Now, it's not to say I can't have a desire, right? But even if I have a desire for a Lamborghini, I have to do that in a just way. Which means if I, let's say, start putting money in my bank to buy the Lamborghini, and my kids are starving, or they don't have any clothes, that's not great, right? That's not what we should be doing. Because I have an obligation to those people, right? Or maybe I take it a step further. There's a guy down the street that is, always there begging, but I need that Lamborghini. Okay. So how do we combat it? Goodwill, humility, abandonment of the providence of God, gratitude, right? So really the way we overcome jealousy and envy is fostering gratitude. Thanks to God for the gifts he gives us. Happiness is not really found in the things that we have, or even the created things. It's really found in the kingdom of heaven. And we were given goods to lead to that end. And we should use them for that purpose. Questions, comments, concerns, heresies. Yeah. Okay. So wage theft. Yeah. Yeah. Look, I mean, again, the worker deserves their wage. So if I'm working a job that would really probably is a value, let's say $50,000, but I'm getting paid 40. Well, there's some options there. I need to I can bring that to a proper authority. I can find a new job, maybe, right? In other words, I should be given the wage that's due to me for the work I'm doing. And that'll be theft too if it's not being maintained properly.
But also, like, you do have the choice to not be employed there.
True. That's what I'm saying. I mean, you can get another
Nobody's holding
job.
a gun to your head
Yeah,
to
you
work
can go
there.
get another job. That's true. Yeah, right.
I think my biggest question is where, I know it's not a defined answer to this, but where's the line between living unnecessarily luxuriously and being too embroiled with your riches versus living comfortably and having nice things because you do well?
Yeah, I think there's a level of discernment involved with that. So, for instance, here's maybe a little parable that goes along with this. When in my canon law class, our canon law teacher, who's actually a former associate from this parish, Monsignor Ramacati, good man, really brilliant. He would tell us that when he lived over on the hill in South St. Louis, he would go to this person's house that was invited for dinner on occasion. This house was like a little cottage house, one bedroom, maybe had one good burner on the stove. This person wore like threadbare clothes. Her brother lived next door, would come over, and they would have like soup very, very meager, obviously Monsignor was always grateful for it. Even though it was meager, it was, whatever. Well, the woman died, and then a few years later, her brother. After the brother died, there was a huge donation made to the parish, millions of dollars. They found that this couple, the brother, they owned a bank. Now they lived as if they were, making minimum wage every day, but part of that may be the way they were brought up. Like, hey, we went through the Depression, that's how we lived, but they had enough money to buy a mansion if they wanted to, but they didn't, right? Contrast that to maybe someplace out in Chesterfield, where you have maybe someone lives in like a mansion, has like the latest Range Rover, but if you go to their house, there's no furniture, right? So now, okay, maybe they should live a little bit below their means and actually live maybe better. Actually have like a chair to sit on, right? Maybe do they need the Range Rover?
Because you don't need that much
Right,
space.
exactly.
And then you also have the people that like live wastefully.
Correct.
The thing of like, we go to the store every week and we spend $1,000 on groceries, but the majority of it goes bad because we don't eat it.
Right. I mean, so
Because we go out to eat every
I'm
day.
in other words,
$2,000 liquor.
yeah. In
instead
other
of,
words,
like,
there is a media via between those two lifestyles, right? There's a media via between, okay, do I have to live like as if I'm actually destitute, or do I live like I'm actually high on the hog and I'm really not? Either way, you would be like, maybe it's those both aren't. Now, one is a great noble thing to do. A little sacrifice involved with that. And the other aspect is like, well, I mean, how are we actually living?
Are you respecting yourself?
Right.
The way that you're
Exactly.
The majority of people that I've known that have been very well to do have lived relatively modest, considering
Sure.
the standards of things.
Sure.
Like, it's a thing of, hey, you're driving a 15-year-old Camry. Well, yeah, it's been a great car.
Why?
do I
Well, I
buy?
mean,
this car's
Why do I buy
working?
a new one?
To that
every
end,
year?
Marty, I mean,
Just-
I actually, I first bought a new car when I moved to Seattle when I was working. That was the first thing I ever bought on my own was a brand new car. I drove that car for 17 years. And the reason I drove it because it worked. I mean, hey, it gets me point A, point B. It's a good car. I like,
What was
driving
the
it.
mileage?
By the time it was all said and done, it was like 169,000.
Wow, you didn't drive very
Yeah, it's actually a lot lower.
Actually, I drove that cross country 4 times.
Oh,
Gosh.
really?
Yeah, from Seattle down to Charleston.
Wow.
I know.
What kind of car was it?
What else should I say? I don't know. Impala.
A Chevy Impala?
Yeah, yeah.
That's what I had. A
Really?
Chevy Impala 2000.
I bought this in 2006. 06 Impala.
Oh.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, but that's the thing, right? I think there was something of living within my means. I mean, I was making enough money. I could afford a new car every year if I wanted to. But my mentality, because maybe the way I was raised, maybe that was like, hey, look, unless this car just blows up on you,
Yeah, you don't need.
you don't need another
I
car.
mean, it
Right.
kind of goes to that thing too of like, I mean, we're on a vacation or trip. Like just the other day, we were on vacation.
Yeah.
Like went to a butcher shop, we're in there, and I'm like, no, that's I was like, I want to have some steaks, some fish tonight. We got everybody out here. Let's do this. And like go to the butcher shop, I'm like, it's really unreasonable for this. Like I'm not paying that much because it's just
Sure.
it's just blatantly wasteful.
Yeah.
To be paying $60
Right.
I can get a
Right.
$20
Yeah.
steak instead of a $70
So, I mean,
steak.
Well, I was like, what, rather than doing that, I'm going to do this and just kind of
Yeah. I mean,
a couple and serve everyone because they're outrageously expensive.
a lot of these are coming down to moderation, right? What is the best way to do? I mean, because it's absolutely wrong to indulge.
Yeah.
Now, if you're doing it all the time and that's causing other issues, then you shouldn't. But when you talk about moderation, that's kind of what we're talking about. I mean, can I live a joyful, happy life and maybe live in a cottage home with only like a bed and, a stove and just the stuff I need? Yeah.
For
Certainly
example, if I'm making enough to where like I have a cleaning person
Yeah.
and I have somebody who's mowing my lawn, would that be considered
Indulgent.
like, indulgent? Because it's all things that everybody has to do.
I think that kind of depends. Like, if I have a job, okay, so like to that point,
HOA.
when I was working, I was working like 12-hour days. And so like I did hire someone to come clean my apartment every so often because like I just didn't have the time to do it. Right. I wish I had someone to cook my meals. I had to still make my own meals, but that's the thing, right? It's like, okay, the circumstance may dictate that. And so I can just live in filth.
And the other thing is,
But
too,
then
is-
where's the respect?
Right.
the other thing is too, you got to think on the concept of things of like, well, I'm earning this money, and when I'm spending it, I'm giving it to other people
Yeah.
for them to earn their living.
Right,
So I
right,
mean, like,
right.
that's the
I'm
whole
providing some way. Yeah.
versus the like blatant just waste. of
Right,
this
exactly.
stuff, You know,
Yeah.
the blowing
not
my
just
nose
throwing
with
money away.
$100.
Yeah,
of
right,
thrown away,
right,
But
yeah.
it's
whatever.
also, you have to think about if you're doing that to be lazy. and
Right.
not cleaning your house.
I think your conscience would dictate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, I think there's the medivia, and I think it's dependent. That kind of depends. It's individualistic for each person. It's a little different for everybody. I
But the
think.
point is, it is okay to live well
Of course.
as long
Yeah.
as it's within your
Right,
means
exactly
and
right.
intentions
Yes.
correctly.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that goes back to the whole
Earn a fair
discussion.
living.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that goes back to the discussion about like even saving money up for like the future, and like, yeah, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
You know, and one should, because that's actually something that's prudent.
Yeah.
But when's enough? That's really the question.
You have free will.
That's right. Good. Well, we have officially ended our discussion on morality. So congratulations, you all got through it.
Yeah.
Next week, we will talk about the Lord's Prayer and prayer in general. And then, of course, we'll walk through a practice for August 30th. Then the week after, of course, on the 26th, we'll be at the cathedral. We'll take a tour at 7 o'clock. Shouldn't take more, and I'll take all the nooks and crannies that people can't go to. So it'll be great.
Are we gonna get on a bus or what are we gonna do?
Meet down there.
We're driving down there by ourselves?
I mean, do you need a ride?
If you want to ride, I mean, yeah, I got 3, but I can fit a couple on the truck.
I mean, I guess we call meet here in carpool if you want. I mean, I don't know. That's fine with
By
me.
ourselves, we have to drive downtown by ourselves.
By the cathedral, it's not bad.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No,
That's
you're
fine.
right though. And it's great drivers.
How about this? We'll all meet in the
August
parking lot.
26th is the tour.
We'll all meet in the parking lot behind the cathedral. Well, actually, that might be construction going on still. We'll meet in the parking lot next to the playground and walk in together.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
I like that.
All right.
Me too.
Okay. Good. All right.
So,
Hopefully I can go.
I hope so
Hopefully
too.
Arby doesn't have to work.
7 o'clock. We'll meet down there at 7 o'clock.
When is the baptism for those who are getting baptized?
The 30th of August
It's 11.
After 11 o'clock mass?
at the 11 o'clock mass.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So initiation happens at the 11 o'clock mass. If you're having just like baptism, which is we do for infants, do it after. It's a separate ceremony.
Wait, what's initiation?
Baptism, confirmation, and first communion.
Oh, so it's all together?
Oh yeah,
That's real.
That's
Yeah.
what Artie, my
It's a
husband
one-
did.
it's a one-stop shop. Actually, yeah, he received even
Were you
marriage that
Credo
day too.
Catholic?
I was.
Okay. Nice.
He usually 4 sacraments that day.
You're much
I can see
cooler.
it on your face.
I don't know. Artie's pretty cool. I like her. Artie's pretty. I mean, no offense. Actually, I love you. Artie's pretty
cool.
Well, Artie received 4 because he received the sacrament of marriage that night
Oh, that's
Wow.
wonderful.
because he was baptized.
Gotcha, okay.
They had the ceremony in November.
So how many
Yeah.
are getting baptized on the 30th?
1.
Yay.
Congratulations.
That's it. I think. Let's hear.
Oh, just one?
Just 1.
Wow,
I
no,
guess.
I don't want to stay in the spotlight.
Leave me alone.
Yeah,
No,
fine.
this
Yeah,
is your
it is.
moment. This is your moment to shine.
Day is not ready yet.
I
That's
just told my father.
All good. Let me know.
You got
Um,
time? Yeah, some time.
I'm going home next week. I can tell him.
Your call.
We'll see how that goes.
Huh?
Where's your home?
In Kansas.
Oh, okay, Kansas City.
All right.
Wichita.
Oh.
Well, we will see everyone next week, if not sooner. So
Next 7 hours.
thanks for coming, and we'll have a good night. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, Father.
Thank you. Bye.
Are you excited?
I had a question real quick.
Wonderful.
So you would say it's kind of a 2-part. So you would say it would be stealing if somebody were to loan me $10,000